Hello, friends. My name is Steve, and we're here for the Friday Conversation, episode 77. 77. So, happy Friday. It's not Friday for us, but it's Friday for you when you listen to this, so happy Friday. And so we'll go around the room. Christopher, can you start us off with some introductions, please?
Absolutely. So I'm Christopher G. Brenning, author of the Hellborn King saga. This is my third time on with you and Chris. Glad to be back here.
Nice. And Jared.
My name is Jared. I'm on the Fantasy Thinker YouTube channel, and this is my first time on the Friday conversations. So I'm glad to be here.
Nice. And Robin.
Hello, I'm Robin from Bookends&Biscuits, my YouTube channel. I think I've been on one before, maybe. So it's my second time on the conversations. Glad to be here.
Nice. And some new guy. I don't know who this guy is. I don't know who let him in. Who are you again?
Yeah, I hope to God you've stopped counting. I've been on this quite a lot, so very thankful to Steve for always allowing me to come back, whether they're on Friday or not, as it turns out. My name's Chris Mohan. Sometimes YouTubers, sometimes appear on other people's channels. Always like to have a good chat with all of the people here, because they're all pretty cool dudes and dudettes.
Very much so. Yeah. So Christopher, you've been busy. So what's been the response to the novella? Well, tell us about the novella too.
Yeah, so I actually have you two to thank for the novella because I was kicking around the idea of putting it out, but the last time I was on with you guys, you were talking about how you would like to see some novellas for the series, and that's really what convinced me to go ahead and pull the trigger and do it. So you can thank yourselves for it. So, but yeah, I wanted to go back in time a little bit and kind of give you more context of how the saga started, because I was starting to get the impression from the readers towards the end of the Wrathbringer that Damien Dreadfire is more of a villain, and I sensed that the readership was kind of turning against him. So that I kind of want to keep him in the middle as much as I can. So I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to pull the trigger on this prequel and give you a better understanding of why he is the way he is, and why he's so hell bent on vengeance and everything. And the response has been really good so far, really, really good. It's a short book. It's just barely over 60 pages. You can get the ebook for free if you sign up for my mailing list on my website, so that's pretty cool. And yeah, it's just it's been going great so far.
So for the record, I know you've gotten a lot of these questions. What's your recommended reading order? Because I know that some people are asking, should I read the novella first? Should I read the first book first? What's your recommendation?
You could read the novella first, but I think just to have greater context, I would suggest reading them in the order that they were published. So it'd be Hellborn King, Wrathbringer, then Servitor of Sin.
I think from my point of view, if I can jump in and say,
Yeah.
I was eager to know what was in having read Hellborn King, then Wrathbringer. You're like, I want to know now about the events that were going to be in the prequel. You're kind of thirsty for it. I think that's the rather than kind of walking in blind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then in the next book, the next full length installment that I'm working on now, you're going to get even more insight into what happened at Borjafa, because Damien's perspective of that whole incident, you don't really know too much about it, but without trying to spoil anything, you're going to end up finding out even more about the story. What happened to lead up to the whole saga and the whole war.
So for Robin and for Jared, who aren't familiar with the series, I don't think they've ever read it yet. But or anyone else who hasn't read it, tell us about what's the series about.
Well, the tagline for the first book is a kingdom at war, a royal family at war with itself. So it starts out two sides. You have your kingdom, which is more or less like an empire, and then you have your free peoples, your tribes that have been pushed to the edge of civilization, and they decide it's time to unite and fight back, or else we're going to get wiped out. And so this unstable coalition comes together, and they don't always get along. They don't always see eye to eye. One thing that I make it a point to do in my books is stack conflict, layers of conflict. So you have the overall grand conflict, which is two sides in the war. Then you have conflict going on within each respective side, and then you have conflict going on with the characters, whether it's internal or external, like in the case of Gareth, the royal family, sibling rivalry, family imploding around him and everything. So there's always some sort of conflict, and I write my battles. I don't know how many other authors do this, but when I write my battle scenes, it starts from the perspective of a character on one side and ends from a perspective of a character on the opposite side of the battle. So you get to see the battle from, the entire perspective, both sides. So it's some people have said it's a military fantasy, and I wouldn't disagree with them. The first book especially doesn't have a whole lot of traditional fantasy elements. It's slowly ramping up in the core series, but it's really about the characters. It's about the characters and their struggles, not only with their daily life, but in this war that they found themselves in. And it can get emotionally heavy at times, and you're inside these characters' heads, and sometimes what they're thinking isn't exactly what they're saying or doing. So I would say it's definitely character-driven military fantasy.
That goes really weird in the second book. By the time you get to Wrathbringer, there's some SH1T that goes down in that book. Like that book kind of takes that military fantasy idea and, as you say, sticks this veneer or level on the top of it of what is much more playful fantasy, with what's going on there. It's so good. Yeah,
and the more magical elements that I have, it's more paranormal than anything else. It's not like a hard magic system where this spell does this, or it's more supernatural. It's more lost knowledge, stuff like that. Because I don't for me personally, I'm not a real big fan of high magic, high fantasy stuff like that. So I prefer to make my magic more mysterious and paranormal, and like you said in Wrathbringer, things start to get a lot dark and more supernatural, and it's gonna get even worse in the next book that I'm working on currently.
I like that. I like the idea of paranormal rather than set magic. That intrigues me. That intrigues me a lot.
Yeah, I gotta agree with that. That sounds fascinating. And you, this first book, you started this back in 2021 or something?
I published it in 2021. I started it in 2020, so I went from concept to completion in a year. And it's over 600 pages, so it's big.
And has a great cover.
And it's been revised. Yeah, isn't that right? Yes. The second edition's out now, isn't that right, Christopher?
Yep, the second edition is out. I trimmed some of the fat on it. I cut out 20,000 just useless words. Oh. Really leaned it down.
Wow.
Because we had talked about this, Steve. Like you said, sometimes it gets a little wordy in a couple areas, or it's just unnecessary descriptiveness, and I agreed. And so I really wanted to make Hellborn King the book that I thought it always should have been. And so I spent 6 to 8 weeks just chopping it sentence by sentence.
Wow.
But I'm very, very happy with the result now. It's a much smoother read, and it's the book it always should have been.
Steve was just discussing how he likes to cut the fat out of books in general, so that's points being raised. But yeah, that's awesome that you could do that.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah. I think we'd spoken about that last time we talked about the kind of your development as an author and as a writer. By the time you finish your second book, you feel like the first person who wrote the first book is sort of unrecognizable in some ways, and you use that as a vehicle to kind of go back and say, well, actually, let's use that and then see what we can do.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, it's put this bug in my head now where I'm like, well, now should I go through the second one and update that? But I think it's fine the way it is. I'm focusing as much time and energy as I can into working on the next installment. I'm almost 20,000 words into it. I'm thinking this one's going to be probably the longest book of the series.
Wow.
But I'm actually a little nervous about that because Amazon has limits, page limits, especially for hardcover. I think it's like 550 pages.
Oh wow!
So I'm like, it's like I'm sitting here thinking, well, I want to write a 300,000 word book, but there's just no way I'm gonna be able to put it out on hardcover.
get a soft ending in the middle of it, and then you've got 2 books. Christopher, there you go.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, could split it.
Yeah, I could. Yeah, I've thought about that. I am also now going through Ingram Spark so I can get the the global distribution and all that. And they have more generous requirements when it comes to page counts and everything. So, might end up going that route just to squeak by because this one, I mean, there's going to be 2 brand new POVs from sides that, you haven't even had a chance to see yet. At the epilogue in the Wrathbringer, you're introduced to a new people. There's going to be a POV from that group of people, and then the Droethians, which you've seen throughout the first 2 books, you're going to get a POV from them.
Wow, you've been busy.
That's a lot of words, yeah.
Yeah, and so there's going to be at least, and just going off the top of my head, 6-7 POVs, which is fairly typical with my series. I try to keep it around that mark. I don't want to just have so many different POVs that you end up getting lost, or you need a spreadsheet to keep track of everybody.
I have a question. You said that you started development of the book in 2020?
Yep.
The first one?
Yes.
And you're on the... And how many books are we now? 3, did you say?
I've had two full-length books. I just put out the novella, which is 60 some odd pages. That was July 10th, and now I'm working on the 3rd main installment. So this will be my 4th book.
When's that going to come out?
That's a good question.
I was just thinking, because you've done, 2.5 books so far in 3 years. The next one you're already working on. That's so much. That's amazing. That's super quick.
Yeah.
Well,
and revised one of them.
Ryan Cahill kind of makes me feel like a bum because I can't write as fast as he can. But I really want to get this next one done next year. But with it potentially being as long as I think it's going to be, I can't make any promises. And I know that's just killing you, Chris. I see the anguish in your face right now.
But Ryan does it full time. Like I'm sort of realistic in these kind of things, kind of going like it'll, as long as it's worth. The wait, that kind of stuff. You can take 10 years to do it. Don't take 10 years.
Well, let's not get there.
Like, there are limits, but that idea, like, you have a job, you're getting buff. All of these things are happening,
Yeah.
Well, I'm wondering, what kind of routine do you have to get that kind of material out? Like, what kind of discipline do you do for yourself?
Oh, boy. Just sheer determination, just sheer willpower. I mean, there's so many times where I'm like, I go to work, I get up at like 4:45 each morning, go to work, 10 hours a day, and then I go to the gym for an hour, and then, I mean, there's more often than not when I get home, I'm too exhausted to write, but I force myself to just keep pushing and pushing. Wow. And really, it's about the fans. As corny and cliche as this sounds, the fans, the readers, are really the ones that are keeping me going because everyone that has enjoyed the series is like, when's the next one coming? When's the next? So I don't want to let anybody down. So I want to keep as much momentum going as I can.
I have further questions. I don't know. Getting into this now. Sorry, I have so many questions.
But like my actual writing routine, I go all out. Like I prefer to write at night. That's when my creativity comes out. So once it's dark, I have LED lighting like all around my desk, my keyboard, and just everything. So I'll turn the lights out, turn the LEDs on. I'll burn some incense. I'll listen to some music and just really immerse myself into whatever character I'm writing at the time.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So did you plan the whole series, or did you plan book by book?
Oh, I know how the whole series is going to turn out. In fact, I had the whole series planned out as I was coming up with the concept for the first book and just starting to write it. Okay. Now, I'm not a rigid plotter. I'd say between plotting and pantsing, I am 50-50, sometimes 60-40 one way or another. I always like to leave a little wiggle room for the unknown because sometimes when I'm writing, it's just like I'm just feeling it going in a certain direction, and that may be totally contrary to what I had planned. And now it's like, great, now I got to change the whole rest of the book now. So, but ultimately, I know where I want it to go. I know who's going to live, who's going to die. In fact, I even know the last scene of the last book. Already got it planned out in my head. So,
oh wow,
yeah, it's going to take a few years to get there, though.
It's interesting you say that because I would say there's a very strong emotional core runs through the book. You know, it gives it propulsion, etc. But like the characters are very emotional the whole way along. Like, you know what I mean? Whether that's kind of laziness, even at one point they're emotionally lazy, you know, even or inactive as a thing. But then at other times they really use that to propel you and the story forward. And I think that kind of character work is one of the things that I really love about it.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I try to put myself into not all my characters, but some of my characters. Like Gareth is like all the negative traits in me amplified from like when I was a young man, teenager, early 20s. The insecurity, the just feeling lost in life, just having no real purpose. So I'm drawing inspiration from that, and then like Einar is like my sense of right and wrong, and loyalty to friends and stuff like that. So. And then Damien is like the dark, like negative thoughts in my head, just like the anger something that I feel sometimes, or frustration. So I use those emotions, those feelings to draw on, and that's why some of these characters are so heavy. Yeah. When you're reading them, and especially somebody like Gareth. I mean, he's kind of a polarizing character, because some people they empathize with him, or they absolutely can't stand him because he's just he's just a man child. He's just annoying to read. But it's like, he's coming from a certain place, and if you can empathize with that, you really like, man, I kind of see myself in this character. I've had friends that said that they see themselves in Madeline, for example, with her struggles, especially in Wrathbringer. So having such a cast of characters that are so different, I think there's some kind of something for everybody that you can identify with and see yourself as.
And it's just how many books are going to be total in the series, do you think?
So I'm planning on 5 full-length books in the core series. Then there's the prequel novella. There may be another novella in there, possibly. And then I plan on doing like a 2 to 3 book spin-off series after that's based in the same world.
Oh.
So I have a lot of work to do.
You've been busy.
Yeah, it does strike me though, especially from here you talk about like your journey. I'd see a lot of people before they read their first book, they spend years researching how to release a book, so long before, rather than actually worrying about the writing. You've kind of done it a bit more emergently. Do you feel like, obviously the fact you went on revisions, etc., would kind of suggest that, but do you kind of feel like that emergent thing can give you a good sense of, right, what the next 3, 4, 5 books are gonna be in terms of planning and in terms of time scale and everything that needs to happen from doing it that way, rather than kind of having this, I'm sure you did research beforehand, but you know what I mean, this kind of overall where people get caught in that loop.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And with each release, you just learn more and more and you streamline it better. But yeah, that first one was many hours of, just at work, throwing in the earbuds and just, running YouTube videos, people talking about, how to self-publish. But before that, I actually tried to get traditionally published.
Right.
I'd sent out queries to 50 agents, and I got 50 rejections. In fact, I only had one rejection that was somewhat personalized, because typically it's all just a copy-paste. Dear author, thanks for your submission. But I did get one that had a little bit of personalization. And she said, because I submitted the prologue for the Hellborn King, and she said, I think you're starting your story in the wrong spot. And so that got me thinking. And so then I went back, I cut out like 80% of the prologue and rewrote it into what it is now. And I did that in 2 days. And it's fantastic. I think it was so much fun to write. And so once I did that, I'm thinking to myself, maybe I'm just meant to go my own way and self-publish, because that was originally my first plan in my head when I first started coming out. Hey, I want to write a book. It's like, well, I should probably just self-publish it, because no publisher will give me the time of day. And turns out that feeling was correct. So yeah, ended up doing it myself. It's been a blast. I've made friends all over the world. I've sold copies in 14 countries, and it's it's growing more than I ever thought it was. So yeah, I'm learning a lot more, and with each release, it's just going to get better and better. I mean, like the Wrathbringer release was a train wreck, absolute train wreck. But the one for Servitor went very smooth. So yes, I've learned a lot.
From the outside looking in, I would have never guessed it was a train wreck.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was up at 4:30 in the morning just sweating bullets. Like, oh my god, it's release day, and Amazon's rejected my uploading because something was wrong with either the formatting or the artwork, or and I'm sitting there 4:30 in the morning just frantically trying to fix it all, and yeah, it was a very, very stressful day when it should have been a very enjoyable day.
Oh,
Yeah. What lessons learned?
yeah, definitely. Yeah, for the next one. Yeah. You sound like you're taking a lot of feedback and working that as well, because you said that, for example, Steve said it was a bit heavy, so you've kind of reduced the number, and you said that you then changed different things, and you said the novella was based on the fact of the feedback you were getting from one of the characters. So is it fun being able to take that feedback and then loop it back into the future books? Is that helping you out there from getting that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I will say this: if anybody guesses a particular plot point I have for a character, you have my word. I will not change it. I will not change it. So, but yeah, I mean, like Steve and Chris. I mean, I wouldn't have put out this novella if it wasn't for you guys. You guys really were the ones that
cool.
convinced me to do it. Had the idea, was toying around with it, and then just decided. Originally, when I was going to write, I was like, I only want it to be maybe like 20,000 words. It's less than that now, but 20,000 words, I'll get this done in 2-3 weeks.
Hubris.
9 months later, and it still wasn't done. Of course, I was having an existential crisis, and my life was melting down at the moment. So yeah, that book damn near killed me.
Yeah.
Trying to get that thing finished.
It's a nice metaphor for the series. Everybody's sort of having an existential crisis of some sort.
Yeah, I mean, I did want Servitor to be a little bit longer, but I was like, you know what? It's lean. It does what I want it to do. I'm not going to pack it with fluff. I just want to get this done and just get it out in the world. Just put it behind me.
How do you guys feel making your friend?
The experience for writing that one was not.
Yeah.
Wasn't.
How do you feel making your friend have an existential crisis, guys?
Certainly wasn't the intention. We were just looking like I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm glad you did it because I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But no crisis necessary next time for sure.
I can't think of. Sorry. Go ahead, Jared.
Oh no, I gotta admire that fortitude of being able to write that many words in such a short time, because back when I was writing, it took me a year to write 15,000 words. Never mind how much you've packed out. That's incredible. And it was painstaking for me. So I really kudos to you. Really, that stuns me. It really does, and I'm looking forward to checking it out.
Yeah, I would always try to write either 6 pages a day or at least 1,000 words a day, and I was doing that fairly consistently with the first 2 books. But it's really been slowing down. I think I do have a little bit of burnout just from pushing so hard. So right now I'm doing 300 to 500 words a couple days a week when I'm able to. But I'm close to 20,000 words on it, and I want to invest more time, and I need to invest more time in it because I work at a different company now, and my winter schedule is extremely demanding. I'm up at all hours of the night. I worked a couple of 26-hour shifts, so it's really hard to be creative and have the energy to write when you're that sleep deprived. So I'm trying to get in as much work now as I can before winter arrives.
You've got to embody some of your characters. Or Damien Dreadfire at hour 23 of your 26-hour shift, trying to keep going. Yeah, I was going to say that I struggle to think of a set of books where nearly all of the characters are so divisive around the audience. I can only think of one character that is universally loved by everybody, which I think is probably Titan. I think is the one person that everybody loves him, but everybody else is sort of mixed on everybody else in some way, shape, or form. That must be cool to get feedback on.
And that's exactly what I was going for. I wanted that. I wanted to create discussion around characters and have people love some and hate the others. But yeah, Titan is one that everybody seems to love, and he was a late addition to book one. I think I had maybe, I don't know, 40, close to 50% of it written before the idea for him popped in my head. I was like, I really just kind of want to write an old soldier who's just, he's seen too much, he's swallowed too many horrors, he's lost too many people around him, and just throw him into the mix and just kind of see what happens. And I didn't really have anything planned out for him for book one. It was just kind of, let's just see what happens. And then when I got finished with the Hellborn King, I decided to make Titan the focal point for the Wrathbringer, and he's the character that's on the cover of that. And yeah, he one of the most fun characters for me to write. My other favorite character is Lucetta, just because of how mad she is. Yeah. But yeah, so writing him's a lot of fun. I just get to let loose. The profanity's flying, a lot of good action scenes with him. And the other thing that I really like is that with Madeline, he has this friendship with her that's not romantic in any way. It's just they are bonded through what they've experienced in combat, and so it's a very close friendship that's more like almost like big brother little sister type thing in a way. Like he doesn't have any sort of romantic feelings toward her, because you tend to see that in books where the female character, all the males are fawning, and there's always some sort of romantic this or that or some love triangle or something. And I really didn't want to do that with him. I just wanted to have a platonic, bond that they've developed, because they almost came to blows when they first met each other, and just through what they experienced together, they're super tight, and that's been a lot of fun to write. There are several like really strong friendships that I enjoy writing. The other one is Gareth and Sir Edmund. Sir Edmund is actually based on my real life best friend, and some of the conversations that those characters have had are inspired by conversations I've had with my friend. Lucetta and the Woman in Black. That's another odd friendship that's a lot of fun to write.
You could say that.
Yeah, Einar. Yeah, Einar and Damien was another one that was really fun to write. Except Einar, well, without getting into spoilers, he's off doing his own thing in Wrathbringer. But you'll see him back in the mix again in the next book. So yeah, I mean, there's just a lot that I enjoy writing, and if I ever feel like I get stuck on a certain character in a certain chapter, I have a big enough cast that I can just jump to somebody else and just always keep that momentum going.
That's something we talk about during we just finished The Expanse, Robin and Chris and Layla and Suzanne and I. But one thing we talk about is the platonic relationships with men and women not having to have a romantic connection. It's something that's, when it feels forced, it just, without naming any names in The Expanse, it just feels but just having that platonic, I appreciate that, because we don't always need a romantic connection for us to care about them. It can be platonic.
Yeah, exactly. And I think for those that have read The Wrathbringer, you really get a sense of just how strong that bond is between Titan and Madeline, and that some of those chapters were heavy. Some of those chapters were not easy to write at all. And just trying to put myself in that headspace, like what would happen? What would I feel like if one of my close friends went through something like this? Like how would I feel? And then I pour that out onto the page.
Do you find it easy to use conversations you've had with friends and stuff like that in your writing, or is it because I always found it difficult to do that? I never was able to bring that out in my writing, like the conversations I've had with friends like that, and transform it into the characters on the page. Is that something that you find comes naturally, or?
Yeah, it's actually pretty easy for me to do. And sometimes if I'm really feeling a certain interaction in a scene, I'll just punch out all the dialogue. I won't have any exposition or nothing. It'll just be just pages of dialogue, and then I'll go back in and just kind of fill in, little exposition to kind of break up the chunks of dialogue. But yeah, I mean, like when two characters are having a back and forth, it's pretty easy for me to get the conversation flowing. But my dialogue, I mean, is it exceptional? No. Is it terrible? No. I don't really have any like really memorable, like, I mean, like George R. R. Martin, like some of his dialogue lines, it's just like, man, how do you think of this stuff? It's great. My dialogue is more like you can actually picture yourself being in a room and there's just two people having, just a modern type of conversation. That sort of realism is something that I really wanted to put into my books, and because some dialogue can be either hit or miss. Either it's too flowery, or it's just it's not intricate enough. It's boring or whatever. But I think I kind of walk a fine line between dialogue that drives, doesn't drag, but yet it's got substance to it.
Yeah, because I was going to say quite often with books it can be difficult because a conversation you read is not usually exactly the same as one you would have in real life. You've got to cross that border, otherwise it doesn't read correctly. So it must be quite difficult. Obviously you've worked it out quite well, but it must be quite difficult to translate it into a readable kind of format, especially if you're working from things from real life. So that's really awesome that you've obviously got that down.
I mean, it definitely can be difficult. What I do when I write, and I don't know how many authors do this, when I'm working on a scene, I actually play it out in my head like I'm watching a movie. So, like if some character walks into a tavern, I'm actually picturing that in my head. Like, the camera's coming through the door, you see the tavern, you see the characters, and then I'm just kind of just writing down what I see. And then if two characters are having a conversation, I picture it in my head as if I'm watching a movie, and they're sitting down and they're talking like, okay, well, what would this guy say and how would this guy respond? And so it plays out in my head that way, which hopefully one day when I get my HBO series, it'll be ready to go.
That's really fascinating. Yeah, That's really, really visual, actually.
Yes. I'm definitely a very visual person. I've always loved movies. This always comes as a surprise to people when I do podcasts. I'm actually not a reader. I don't enjoy reading at all.
Whoa.
Oh, wow.
I can't. Just something in my brain. And I have books that I bought, just to kind of study how I've got George R. R. Martin, Abercrombie, Sanderson. I've got a bunch of books, and I wanted to buy it and just like physically see how they did it on the page. And I'm reading, and I'm like, this is really good stuff. But my brain reaches a certain point where I just can't take it anymore, and I have to put the book down because I'm probably just way too ADD to really enjoy reading. But I've always enjoyed writing. I've been writing my own stories and stuff since I was like in third grade.
That's something that, I don't remember if it was during the recording or not yesterday, but Chris and I were discussing that with Jenny and Holly about your writing being very cinematic. It's very like dynamic, and it reads almost like a movie. So that's interesting to hear you say that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly how I wrote it. Especially my battle scenes. The way I write battles kind of came about when I used to do browser-based freeform RPGs, and you would this certain website you would create your own nation, you'd create your own just everything. It was completely freeform, and then sometimes you would get into wars with other players, and you would write out a battle scene, and then they would respond to it, and then you'd go back and forth until somebody would win. So I sort of have that experience with writing combat, and when I write a battle scene, I'm not playing against another player. I'm playing against myself, essentially. So I'll write a scene, the infantry moves this way, and the cavalry moves this way, and there's archers doing this. And then when I flip it and go to the next chapter, it's like, okay, how would I respond to that? Or how would all these attacks, like how would that hit me and my force and everything? And then I just kind of plan it out and play it out that way. So, but again, picturing it in my head like a movie, like in Hellborn King, when they're at Black Wolf Pass, that whole thing plays out in my head like a movie, like I'm watching it. Yeah. Same thing with well, I don't want to say too much, but another big battle that takes place in the book. Again, playing out in my head like a movie. Like I can just see it, and then I just take everything I'm seeing, the sights, the sounds, the thundering of the earth when the cavalry's just all that, and I just sprinkle in the little descriptions, in my little chunks of exposition.
I'm now just thinking about the people you're playing against, and then them getting this like chapter of battle, and then being like, "Oh my god, wow!" How am I going to respond to this?
I was good back in the day. But yeah, I think doing that sort of gaming really gave me an edge as far as writing battles. I've been told from many people that my battle scenes are very well done, which. Big relief, because I was worried that'd be one area where I would kind of drop the ball, because battles are tricky. You're either good at them or you're really not. And I want to have big battles in my books, like in fact the battle that's going to be in the next installment's going to be even bigger than the one that was in the Wrathbringer, and that battle was it spanned over 5 chapters.
Yeah. Jared, what kind of battles do you enjoy?
What kind of battles do I enjoy?
What like, descriptives, or like what do you look for to say like that's a great battle scene?
Yeah. Let's see. I don't know. I suppose I like the multiple POV factors. Like I'm a big Erickson fan, so during his battles he has a lot of multiple POVs from all the different soldiers that are involved in the battles, and so I really enjoy that a lot. It's not as cinematic as like watching Game of Thrones or something like that on TV, but but you get a lot of character insight into how they're feeling about the battles. So I guess that's how I like to read about that stuff.
What about you, Robin?
Oh, I was hoping you weren't going to put me on the spot. Not a usual thing I kind of read. I'm not hugely into big battle books a lot of the time. But actually, I would have to agree with Jared. Generally, it's the ones where maybe you've got the cast doing smaller pockets rather than the huge scenes. So you're able to kind of follow what's happening in the small areas rather than the sweeping ones. But to be honest, it's something I could do with reading more of, because it's not something that I usually pick up. So lots more to discover, I'm sure.
You need more blood and guts in your life.
Clearly I do.
Yeah, I'm used to describing what I like, or it's one of those things. Once you're really good, when you go, yeah, that was good, and if you read one that's not so good, you kind of go, well, that wasn't good. Describing why one worked and why one didn't can be sort of tough. But I generally like one where I know the geography of the battle well. You know what I mean? Regardless of where the action's happening, actually, where is it in context? And I think that's probably helps where you look at the cinematic element, because as a camera view, you've got to do the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, when you said the battle lasts quite a while, it's not just people swinging swords for 5. It's all these other things happening, and like sabotage and all these other strategies going on. So there's all these other things intertwined with it, because I think when certain authors, I won't name any names, they focus so much on the physical part of it, like the actual battle of the swinging the sword and I block or my shield, whatever, that just gets exhausting for me. Like I lose interest in it. But when it's there's so many different POVs and you're invested in the characters and there's things happening that are meaningful, and things that they do things to each other, try and sabotage each other, they try to gain an advantage over each other, that makes it much more interesting to read, because it's not just battles, it's you get in the heads of the characters and what's happening, almost in the larger story, but also in the ground level, everyone trying to survive. So for me anyway.
Right. And for me, there's the typical sword swinging and everything, but my violence that I have in my scenes, it comes in short controlled bursts. So it's like, here's an exchange between two soldiers, but then, the character is kind of like like he'll step back and he'll just kind of assess and see what's going on, or he'll have some dialogue with another character, or maybe a thought pop in his head, and then maybe a little bit more action. So it's not just constant sword swinging or arrows flying. It's like I try to break it up and have it ebb and flow, because that's what battle, especially in medieval battles, they weren't just nonstop violence constantly. Sometimes they would meet, they'd have contact, and then they'd separate, and then they'd come back. And sometimes battles could last days. And it's not just hours and hours of hacking and slashing. Battles just really don't turn out that way, especially medieval battles. And so that's another layer of realism, like for me personally, that I try to put into my writing, especially in Wrathbringer. They're in the big battle, the really big battle that I have towards the end of the book. When one of the POVs switches over to Gareth, it's like you're almost catching a break from the action, because he's sitting way back on horseback. He's seeing everything that's happening, and then you're kind of getting more geography of what's happening, and that just gives you a chance to kind of catch your breath, and then you're right back into the action again. Because I think if you just do too much constant action, you get burnt out on it,
Yeah, I don't like that in movies when you get all these close-up, quick cuts that you can't really tell what's going on. You just get all these sudden slashing movements in your face and stuff like that, and you don't really get a sense, like what Chris said, like of geography and like what's going on with the battle. You just have all these close-ups and people yelling and dying and and that always bugged me when I was watching movies,
And then the obnoxious shaky cam concept.
Yeah, the shaky cam.
I hate shaky cam so much.
That bugs the hell out of me.
But I hate it.
But yeah, me too. And so I like to have that sense of place, like the and in a book, it's better. It's even better when you also have the character's point of view, and you're emotionally invested in the characters that are participating in that battle, and you can also get a sense of feeling about the battle as well.
Maybe you want to reread it.
Does that for me when I read it.
It's a very fast, very quick read. It's a thick book. Well, I think this is the original version, but it's very thick, but it just reads really, really fast. It's really just moves. There's not a lot of, and not in a really smooth way, but it's not clunky or anything. There's not like you're never really bored.
It's fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I with my prose, I try to keep my prose as accessible as possible. I've heard from many people that this book is massive, but I plowed through it like in no time. Like Andrew from Andrew's Wizardly Reads read it in 2 days. Because he's like it's just he just said it's so, he's like it's just so smooth, it flows so well, and it's not obnoxious with the word usage and everything. It's just and that's my goal was even though it's grimdark and grimdark isn't really mainstream, I wanted to make it more accessible to a wider audience and not really just kind of pigeonhole myself into grimdark.
I don't know. I think after you read that prologue, you made your mind up about whether you can handle that book or not.
Very true. Very true. And if anybody that's watching this wants to check out the prologue, you can go to my website and you can read it for free.
Oh, I literally just...
And then you can kind of decide if you want to invest in the series.
I just went and bought it, so I should have read the prologue first, but I'm in it now.
Thank you. You really should have, but you're there. It's an old-timer, prologues. I think it's...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's right.
Let us know, Robin, if you want a buddy read it. I'll reread it.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, actually, that'd be wonderful. I'm looking to do some buddy reads for my for my challenges this year, so that would be great.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
You're falling classic to the fallacy of I finished the series, therefore I'll start 20 more.
I'll tell you what, Steve, if you're going to reread it, once we get off here, shoot me your information. I'll send you a copy of the second edition.
Oh, well, I'll buy one. I want to support you. I'll pick one up.
You sure?
Yeah,
I'm willing to
yeah,
send
thank
you
you.
one.
No, I'll make sure you see that number tick up on Amazon. You know, I'll be happy to buy another one.
Want to see the graphs on your Twitter? Go look what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as far as prologues go, and Chris, I'm sure this is just going to make your
You're not helping.
anxiousness even worse. the prologue for the next main installment, it's the best it's the best writing I've done yet. It's like I'm just so hyped to get it out. I mean, that prologue is easily by far the best prologue so far.
What makes a
fantastic.
good prologue? Is my question to that, I guess.
Great question.
Oh boy! So my prologues, what I do with my prologues is they're always from a perspective of a character that's not a main POV. It's a side character. It's somebody that's just you don't know. It's unimportant or whatever, and then you get an insight into what's happening in the world from their perspective. And I don't want to say too much more because then I might spoil things for you. But some people skip prologues. Do not skip my prologues because you'll be confused when you hit chapter 1 and you're like, okay, well, what's going on? Because the prologue I always have it bleed directly into the first chapter. There's always some sort of deep connection between the two, especially in the new one that I'm working on now. It literally goes from the end of the prologue straight into chapter 1.
Oh God.
In fact, Chris, what I'm thinking of doing with this new prologue is contacting my narrator, who did the audiobook for the Hellborn King, and having him just narrate the prologue and then just put it out as a teaser, as a little sampler or whatever for the new book. So I'm strongly considering doing that.
That's a super cool
That's
idea.
a nice idea. Yeah.
I like that.
I was going to ask you, like, you obviously released, the novella. You gave it away with the newsletter, obviously, that kind of stuff. Have you seen interaction with the first 2 books then from that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. In fact, I've sold more copies of the Hellborn King with this latest release than the Servitor of Sin. It's crazy.
It's insane, isn't it? That's so good.
Yeah, it is. And then when I released the Wrathbringer and then Servitor of Sin, I put the Hellborn King up, the ebook up for free, just to kind of get people into the series and everything. And I think I was close to 600 downloads on Amazon of the Hellborn King.
Wow.
It was a lot. It was like 4 or 5 times as many downloads as Servitor got that day. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I just want people to get into the series, and what better way to do that than to give something away.
Well, I mean, in its own right, if those people read, even 10% of them read the first book and they enjoy it, I mean, they're gonna go and get Wrathbringer. It's not the kind of thing that you'll just be like, oh, I'm happy with that. You'll not be. You'll be like, I want to keep going.
One's enough.
Absolutely, you will not be happy with just that.
Because this is a series I do intend on finishing within, don't hold me to this.
Don't put a date.
The next several years. Let's just several years. I will not, and I've made this promise many times. I will not do what certain mainstream authors have done and go more than a decade without putting out the next book. I will not do that. I will not do that. This is the story I feel like I was meant to tell, and I'm not going to write anything else until I get the Hellborn King saga finished.
So
mission.
I have to ask Robin, what about paranormal makes it intriguing for you? What is it about paranormal integrated with fantasy that makes it interesting for you?
That was purely for me, just because I hadn't I haven't. Well, maybe I have. I'm not sure. But from memory, haven't thought of a magic system that's more paranormal than it is classic magic. I mean, I read a lot of older fantasy rather than new stuff, so I'm not sure. But yeah, I think that's just an interesting twist, especially talking like massive battles and stuff. Like the idea that it's more paranormal than pew pew magic just definitely intrigues me. I don't know.
Well, so far in the first couple of books, there really isn't any magic or paranormal stuff in the battles, but that's going to change in this next book.
Oh.
Yes, it's going to start bleeding into more facets of the story.
Getting spoilers.
I think what's interesting about the paranormal aspect for me is it creates a mystery element of what the hell actually is going on. What is... When I get this explained to me, what is... Like the bits that we're being shown, okay, I can see that, I've been told that, but what does it mean to every other character in this story and stuff? And it's that mystery that becomes kind of delicious to read. That you kind of go, oh, I think I've worked it out.
Thank you for explaining why that's exactly what I wanted to say there. Actually, that's it. It makes it more mysterious for sure, 100%.
And also,
one of the most common questions I get is, who is the woman in black?
Yeah.
And
You will
also,
not
you
find
can
that out for a little while.
you can also consider: is it really happening or not?
Yeah, it's always the question. Is it paranormal? Is it not? Is it reality? Is it not? You know, those are all questions that you have.
I've heard so many entertaining theories on that, and I love it. I love it. That's exactly what I was going for. I wanted to create discussion and debate and have just. I've heard people come up with theories. I'm like, that's very interesting, but I never even thought of that being a possibility.
You're like, that'll be for my next book.
Taking notes. Taking notes.
So I have to ask. Chris and I have like a thread going of all the different predictions we have. You don't have to specify, but are we close on any of the predictions
I don't
or
want to
anything? No, don't tell us what exactly. But do we nail anything at all?
I did read that. I probably have to go back and double check, but I think there was one prediction that I was like, it's something I'm not 100% sold on, but it's where I'm strongly leaning toward.
Yeah.
So yeah, at least with one of them, I'll have to go back and reread the thread, but on one of them I was like, yeah, he's getting close. He's getting close on this one. I can't tell you what it is, though.
No, don't tell us. Yeah.
One of my favorite things about making predictions is being spectacularly wrong. That's honestly, it's, when you think you're so sure of yourself, and you're like, "Yes, I've got this. I know what's going to happen." You're like, "None of that happened."
No. But again, if anybody does correctly guess something I plan on doing, I'm not going to cheeseball it and just say, "Oh, nope, not going to do that."
What like what they used to say about the ending of Lost, when people predicted the ending of Lost after like series 2, like en masse, and like, no, we can promise it's definitely not that. Got to the end of Lost, and everybody's like, "That's exactly what you said wasn't going to happen." Yeah, exactly that. Yeah.
Yep.
But didn't Lost write it episode by episode? They didn't know what was going to happen at the end, didn't they? So they just...
Yeah, the problem with Lost was they only planned for a couple of series, and it became so successful that networks meant we need another 4 series, and it's like, what are we going to do for another 4 series of this stuff? And they
just
went
going to
episode
read
by
what
episode.
everyone wrote and then just take that.
Yeah. So disappointing. Oh well.
I'm trying not to talk shit about the series we just finished with stretching things out.
Oh my! You said it was a good series, Steve. You can't take it back now.
I don't know if he did at any stage.
I think overall, it could have been 6 books instead of 9. The Expanse, I think maybe, but it was okay. It was fine. I enjoyed it.
It was fine.
It was fun. Yeah, I think that's another thing about buddy reads that you mentioned, Robin, is with Jared. We're reading, and Chris. Well, we're always reading books together, but the reading with the group makes it more enjoyable, no matter what it is.
Yeah,
100%. Love a buddy read. I think we were just saying right at the end, weren't we, of our read, that it's just having those discussions where you're talking about your predictions and whether they're right or not. It's good fun just to have those with people who see things differently than you do. It's always a good thing to explore, I think. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah. No, Chris made me like the Forever War much better than I did at first. So It was good. I liked that.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember having a conversation about a movie, and it's one of those ones that's like 4 hours long, right? And I came away from watching the 4 hours and went, one of those kind of conversations where you kind of go, I'm never getting that time back. You know that kind of that's 4 hours of my life I never get back. And somebody just put one question, at the start. Well, it said, okay, whatever you think. If I ask you one question, you tell me the answer to it. And as soon as they asked that one question, I was like, oh, that like changes my whole experience of that movie now. Because it was like one of those things. At what point of the movie did you think this? And you're like, well, maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was, and you kind of do that bashing back and forward. And often just planting, that's where the beauty of buddy reads and buddy watching and doing all those things come from. Somebody else's perspective just went, yeah, you think that's fairly simplistic and whatever else, but what if? And you go, oh my God, my mind's just been blown, with all the possibilities of all the different ways that people could have seen that, and all that kind of stuff. And that's where storytelling's like the best thing in the world.
Definitely. Also, as Chris, as you said, it makes staying in all the time reading kind of worth it because you're still chatting with your friends.
Yeah, none of this going out, Lark, that you seem to be doing.
He was giving me stick for going out to the pub.
Jealousy.
Yeah. My going out is sitting on my porch reading. That's where I go out to.
That's not a very British thing at all, sitting out in porches reading. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd love a porch.
I always wondered if the pub was just like one of those things that people talk about, or if it was really a thing in the UK.
Definitely is.
So it's cool. Yeah.
I think it used to be more so, to be honest. The younger generation don't do it as much. Like the pub wasn't really excessively busy, but it is quite an English pastime for sure. I guess Irish. Going to the pub and being sociable again. So luckily, I was with a bunch of book nerds, so that was good.
This hobby of ours is developing into something unrecognizable.
It's becoming a spectator sport.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, have you guys seen that? There's a trend at the moment where people are having silent book clubs. So you literally go to a pub and you read, but with other people. So you're being sociable, but not sociable. It's a really interesting concept. You're like, I'm just going to go and not talk to people, but in the same room.
I have a friend
Just not look impressed.
that goes to the bar by himself and brings hobbies with him. So whatever he's into, even when he, like knitting, will bring knitting with him. Sit and have a... Well, no, like sit and have a pint at like 6 o'clock in the evening. Just bring that, or bring a jigsaw with him. The thing is quiet enough to bring a jigsaw, and he says it's awesome.
It's kind of, if you're feeling lonely, having some sort of social interaction is better than
Well, I suppose that might be true about it or otherwise, but I just thought that it wasn't just him, if you know what I mean. Yeah, it's kind of like a communal thing, and I don't know. Like, obviously, this is kind of a bit of a stereotype, I suppose, but like when you're saying the younger generation, when I was that, when you become a regular at a bar or at a pub, and you don't realise that you're seen as a regular, like it's a weird moment where somebody kind of, you get something that other people aren't getting because you're a regular, and you're like, oh, I've made some life choices here that maybe I need to think about.
I thought you were going to go the other way of being like, it's nice to be part of a group, but you were like, no.
Well, it is definitely nice to be part of a group, but no.
I thought you were going to go to the cheers thing.
Chris, everybody just
Would not be nice though. Everybody wanted every pub to be like Cheers, so wasn't that the thing that you could walk in and be known by, like, people that all seem to be sort of sober. Like, that's the thing about Cheers. Like, nobody was past the point of, oh Chris, while I slide off the end of the table. They seem to be able to hold down conversations and relationships and all of that kind of stuff, where it's still being a pub setting. So. Maybe that is what all American pubs are like.
That's a good point. Is the pub not a thing in America?
No.
You're all too far spaced out, is it? Fair enough. Just your porches then. Just your porches.
Well, see, I live in Wisconsin, and we have like a bar like on every corner. and they're it's pretty much all the same, loud, obnoxious. You know, it's. I don't really go out very much just because I just don't find it enjoyable. I'd rather pick up a bottle of bourbon or something and just hang out with my friends at their place or my place and just do that, because it's just bars in the U.S. are just, I just find them to be more obnoxious than anything else.
Yeah, too sports focused, and beer spilling and what have you. So, I wouldn't want to bring a book to one of those places because it would probably get wet.
Yeah, I think
Where's
definitely
an English?
different.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chris.
English pub is Sunday dinner as well.
Yeah.
You've got a good carvery, or
Can be family friendly, so it's entirely different.
Yeah,
I think
indeed.
entirely different.
Oh wow.
Doesn't always have music either. They might have a live band. They might just be nothing, just having chit chats.
Now, what I will say is, if anybody comes to Worldcon and it's in Glasgow, you're not maybe going to get exactly that experience.
True.
I plan to be there, so.
So excited. Good. I've yet to buy my ticket, mind you, but I am excited about going. So many
Well, I looked to
conferences.
see if you could buy them. I don't think you can yet, or maybe I'm
can
not looking at the right
register,
place.
I think.
Oh, right, okay.
Currently,
We have to
so,
make sure we look after each other in that regard.
Yeah. Also, there does seem to be a discount if you've not been to Welcome before, so make sure you get the right ticket
Oh wow.
in person. Yeah, when I looked to register. Anyway.
You haven't done any conventions or anything yet, Christopher, have you? You haven't done any meetups?
I've done a couple of local book signings.
Right.
There is a convention coming up in September, which I'm trying to get in on. I'm just waiting for final confirmation. It's an actual book convention, which is nice. But yeah, I do want to start doing more live events. Those are always so much fun. Always enjoy doing those. Just sitting behind a table with a stack of books and just talking with people, And I've always been very fortunate. All the signings I've done, there's only one that I did where I didn't sell out of books. So it's always gone very well for me.
Nice.
I was going to ask, do you find it exciting or nerve-wracking as an author? But clearly you just answered that. It's just exciting to see people and chat with them. Yeah.
Well, in a former life, and I posted this on Twitter, I used to be a musician, a touring musician. So I'm used to being up in front of people and entertaining and all that. At one point, I did my band we did 6 U.S. tours. So I've been around. I've always enjoyed entertaining people, and I just after 15 years of playing music, I just decided it's tough creating with 4 other people. You have personalities clashing, creative differences, and I kind of just learned that I create better on my own, and just haven't looked back.
Well, we talked a little bit about that yesterday too, Chris, with writing being a solitary, but also you have a team, other people involved, and so it's not just one person. I mean, someone else is involved at some point, I'm guessing.
Got covers?
Yeah, we were talking about your cover artist earlier, Christopher.
Oh yeah.
How did you get involved with him? And
So when I really decided that I was going to go the self-pub route, I was like, all right, well, now I have to find an artist. And so I just went to Google and I just searched for, best book cover artists or something. I don't know exactly what I searched for, but I'm trawling through articles and came on this one article and saw J. Caleb Design. I think he was ranked number 5th or 6th. But when I saw the samples of his work, I was like, "Whoa! This is exactly what I want." Where it's realistic, but it's also still has that cartoony type of vibe. It's definitely serious in the way he presents it. And so I went to his website, looked through his catalog work. I was like, "Oh my god, this is the guy! This is the guy!" And I hit him up and told him about the book, told him what I was looking for. I gave him the option of 4 different settings for the cover of Hellborn King. Gave him the description of the character, and I just said, go. Show me what you come up with. And then the cover of the Hellborn King, that was his first try. He came up with that. And I was just blown away I was like, man, this is one of the best book covers I've ever seen. And I've had so many people on Twitter tell me that they just blind bought the book just because they saw the cover art and they loved it. And so, being a self-published author, your cover art is your most important piece of marketing. So, anybody that's listening to this that is considering getting into self-pub, save up some money, do it right, spend the money on a really nice cover. It'll pay dividends for you.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. I've seen, I think a lot, not like I say, controversial, but I would say a fair amount of the issues with self-published books are that people don't invest in that, I think, and people see them as not as good purely based on the cover and then don't go much further than that. So I think having a strong cover is just, definitely pay dividends.
I think that perception is definitely changing, though, because, I mean, you see on Twitter just so many amazing pieces of cover art. In fact, for the life of me, I can't remember which author it was, but I saw one recently on Twitter. It just made me so jealous. I'm like, God, this is just gorgeous. It was just amazing. I'm like, man, that's awesome. But indie self-pub fantasy, it's come a long way. And according to who you talk to out there, it's picking up where traditional publishing has kind of dropped the ball. I mean, name a recently published traditional book that has a mind-blowing piece of cover art. A lot of the times it's just generic. It's not all that impressive, and some of the stories that are getting put out there are just they're okay or whatever. But there's just so much creativity and so much talent in the indie scene right now. I mean, you got to get involved with it if you haven't. Anybody that's listening, if you have doubts about indie fantasy, just go on Twitter. There's so many good authors out there that are really deserving of your time.
Incredible. I bookmarked J.K. Hellborn Design after our last thing. I always just go on there. It's the wealth of covers that he has, amazing. And often great for like, what should I read? You look and see a cover that really grabs you, and maybe the whole series is there, and you just kind of go, oh, that's awesome. And I don't know, this has kind of gone over old ground, but he does typography better than probably anybody else that I've ever seen. You can probably see it from Christopher's books there, the kind of mix of the traditional font with the kind of the more aggressive, kind of more modern fonts. That's so hard to do. But he can
More heavy metal font.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, are we skipping over the fact that, Chris, you literally choose books based on not even the prologue, not the back of it, not anything, just the cover?
Well,
that is good Bond, to be fair.
But it's more so than when you're looking for something fresh and that nobody's really talking about it. You want to discover it. Like, I always think book discovery, music discovery, movie discovery is such one of the best parts about all that. Kind of finding something fresh that nobody's influenced you on or otherwise. Trying to find that kind of blank canvas is very, very hard in the modern world. Like, usually you've seen it somewhere, done anything. And I think that in that case, especially J.K. Hellborn Design's webpage just has this thing of, you get a very strong idea of theme. You get a very strong idea of what the book's about from his covers, as you can see even from Christopher's there. And you can kind of go, right, that catches my eye. Now let's go read the blurb that goes with it. Now let's see whether that's something that would be interested. So covers, obviously do play a massive part of that, but that discovery part of it, having a resource like that isn't just a whole load of blurbs or otherwise. People do just SBFBO to do exactly the same thing. Here's 300 new books, 300 new blurbs. Let's see what I can discover.
You absolutely can judge a book by its cover, especially nowadays. You have to. So
there's so many books. You see, that's the thing. And as the truth goes, I think the idea used to be that only some of them will be good. The likelihood is a lot of these books are very, very good. They're very well crafted and well put together. It's unusual to read a bad book. I often think in a lot of days it's been through some sort of process or somebody's time and effort that they put into. So trying to find what book you should read can be quite difficult.
Yeah. And Christopher, how relieved are you that you have an artist that you can depend on to do your covers, and you're not someone who's just starting off and trying to avoid AI? Because having a cover with AI is like a death sentence. I mean, it is hard. I mean, you're labeled as like this villain right away.
Yeah, I would never ever in a million years consider doing AI, and putting a book together and publishing, getting it out into the world, it's a very time consuming, stressful thing to do, and having an artist that I can rely on, I mean, it totally takes that weight off my shoulders, because when I send him that email and I tell him, the title of the book, roughly what I'm thinking idea wise, I already know it's going to be done and it's going to be awesome. I mean, the only stressful part is like waiting for him to send it to me, because I just want to see it. So, but I mean, he's knocked it out of the park every time, every time. And I've only ever had him do small tweaks, like for example, on the Hellborn King, Damien originally had hair. I said, he's actually bald in the book, so he went back and fixed that. And then on the Wrathbringer, Titan had a hood over his head. I was like, I'd like to take the hood off and just see more of his face. And then with Servitor of Sin, I had him change the color of his armor because it was a little too bright. So just little ticky tack stuff like that. But 99.9% of it, he just nails on the first try. And it's the cover for the Wrathbringer. I got it right here. This was actually not what I had intended. I gave him a different idea for Titan. I wanted Titan to have more of an action pose. So he sent me that, but then he also said, well, you know what? I was feeling inspired, and I had him in more of a stoic pose. What do you think about that? And I was like, that's it.
It's very Titan.
It's not even what I asked for, but he nailed it. And I was like, absolutely. It's better than I even imagined it would be. So, having a guy that's that talented and is not afraid to take the ball and run with it, it's awesome. He's going to be designing all my book covers. I told him, if you ever plan on retiring, let me know, because I'm going to have you do like
all of them before
a whole mess of them, just all up front, so I have them.
That's so funny.
So I have to know, what was your 26-hour shift? What was that about? How did you manage staying awake that long?
Well, my day job is I'm a manager at a landscaping company, and so during winter we do snow removal, and I'm also a manager in that role too. So it's when you have an event, when you're getting a foot of snow in a night, that's a lot of hours that you got to put in, and the company I work for services hundreds of sites, and so when you get a system that's just hanging out over the top, you just dumping snow, you're out there working until you're done. And I would do like 16 hours on, and then I get maybe an hour or two off, and then I would do like another 10 hours on after that, and I'd just be dead to the world.
Robin's surprised.
I was like, what? No, I can't function on no sleep though. It doesn't happen. So that to me, that's insane. Kudos to you for sure.
I barely survived it this past winter. Plus, I was going through a lot of personal stuff too. Steve knows about it. I was going through some really heavy personal stuff this past winter, so it made the long shifts and the sleep deprivation that much worse. It was just not a good winter. This winter will be a lot better. My role is changing slightly, and the drama that I was consumed in is in the past now. So hopefully I'll have more energy and more creative space to keep writing consistently this winter. Because I can't keep Chris waiting for the next book.
You're damn right. I mean, you can take your time, but there's a certain point that patience runs out.
Right.
I was going to ask, because of that, you said you had a difficult winter, and you also said the sheer amount of writing that you've been doing, it seems insane to me, maybe normal to other people. But you said you're kind of dealing with some potential burnout. I was like, have you ever considered maybe taking a break, or do you think that would make it worse for you? Taking a break, coming back fresh or whatever, do you think you continuing is kind of actually helping you to stay
that's such
creative?
A good question, and I go back and forth on it all the time.
Do you feel about that?
I have thought, maybe I'll just take, a couple of months, and I'll just kind of lay low on social media. I won't do any writing, this or that, and then, as fate would have it, the books have been selling really, really well the past couple of months, and so it's like I don't want to fade from relevance right while I'm finally starting to get some major traction going. But I'm just going to pace myself. I'm just going to take it in small chunks. If I don't feel like writing on a particular night, I'm not going to force myself. If I am writing and I don't get as much done as I wanted, I'm not going to beat myself up about it the way I used to. Some nights I would stay up till like 11:30 writing, and then I have to be up at 4:45, and I would like beat myself up. Like, I wanted to write 1,000 words tonight, and I got 750, and I like, it would bother me. It's like, damn, I'm not hitting my goals, But now it's like, hey, I wrote 350 words tonight. It's better than 0. I'll take it.
Yeah,
it is.
That's very, very sensible. Don't look at Chris's face. Chris, stop bullying him.
I'm trying my best, but sometimes your face belies what you say. It's just the way it is. I say this a lot, but RJ Barker has his Twitter feed's great for that. 800 words done today. I think that'll do me for today. That's kind of all he just posts, and it's like, yeah, there's a professional writer, and he's kind of, at least whether he's doing that or not, it's that kind of mentality. I think is kind of healthy to kind of say, look, you do what you can do, and then.
If I was making enough off my books that I could just be a full-time author, this wouldn't be an issue whatsoever.
Yeah.
I'd be cranking these things out, but life gets in the way of that.
You, Mr. Cahill, could be having a book off every year,
Oh boy. Yeah, that guy's a beast, and he's really opened the door wider to a lot of other indie authors. Because so many people have fallen in love with his books, and it's changed a lot of people's opinions on self-published fantasy. And so I think a lot of us are seeing the downstream effect of that, for sure.
Yeah, it's that idea, and I think a lot of this is lost in kind of capitalist society, when people kind of protect their own, their own corner of the world, but they don't actually realize that greater exposure right across for all self-pub books is actually better for them individually as well. Actually, the more that if you can help and champion everybody, you will automatically rise up out of that as well with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I put some up on Twitter. Well, it's X now, or whatever it's called. I put something up, and I was like, hey, I've been very fortunate lately with a lot of people buying my books. I want to return the favor, and I said, if you haven't, if you're an indie author and you haven't sold a book in the past 30 days, post me a screenshot of your dashboard and give me a link to your ebook, and I'll buy it. And so yesterday I bought a whole bunch of ebooks from guys that have been struggling, because I know what it's like when you look at the dashboard and it's been weeks and it's just nothing, and then you see that one little tick, that one little bar, and you're just like, yes. I haven't been forgotten. Yeah. So I wanted to spread some goodwill to some other authors, and I was actually talking with a guy who had just published in July, and was giving him a whole, we were just DMing each other, and I was giving him a whole bunch of advice just from mistakes I made starting out, and I was just giving him advice because, like, his ebook is like 99 pages, but he priced it at like $8. I'm like, ooh. I made that mistake starting out, and my ebook was like 616 pages. I priced it at like $7.99, and I didn't sell. I sold like maybe like 2 in the first like 2 months, but then when I dropped the price way down, started selling ebooks like crazy. And so I told him, don't be afraid to drop your price and make money off of volume, because an ebook, it's really hard for people to justify spending more than $3, $4, $5 on an ebook. So just little things like that you don't know unless you know, right? So I always wanted to make myself accessible to other authors or people who are thinking about becoming authors, and just give them advice based off of what I've seen and mistakes I've made and everything, and just try to make the indie scene a little bit stronger.
Nice.
Jared, are you? Is your time up? I don't want to keep you too long.
Actually, yeah, I'll be right back.
Okay. I'll try to keep. The time zones are a nightmare for me.
Everyone's everywhere. Awesome.
Yeah.
See, for me, I would say Steve lives in the most awkward of all time zones. It's not one of the main ones.
Yeah.
What
Nobody
time
talks
zone are
about
you in,
mountain.
Steve?
I'm in mountain.
Mountain, okay.
Yes.
I'm in Central.
Yeah, we're only an hour
What
apart.
does mountain
Yep.
mean? That's not a
We have
not
lots
a
of
time
mountains here.
zone.
That's it. See, you hear what I'm saying, Robin. You understand,
Steve's a mountain man.
Yeah.
Mountain
What are
mountain
the
man.
winters like in the UK, Robin? What are the winters like for you? Are they snowy, rainy, cloudy?
A bit of everything. Not so much snowy anymore. They used to be, but now they're really just kind of damp. doesn't get freezing cold. It's just kind of just a bit cloudy and damp, which is fair enough. And
You'll
you should
have a
ask me
week.
what my summers are like currently, which is 13 degrees and raining for the last couple of days. So that's been great. But yeah, pretty just mild. UK's just mild.
Yeah, it goes down to about 7 or 8 and raining. Winter, that's kind of autumny kind of thing.
I like it.
Yeah, but
though.
So
this...
That's 55 degrees Fahrenheit for anyone. Anyone curious?
But for what would be sort of a moderate climate with no real extremes, the British's fascination with weather is off the scale. Honestly, a proper fascination with the difference of 2 degrees. It's just unheard of.
We love it. We love talking about weather.
It's always sort of raining, or rain's never too far away, or
I do. The one thing I've always said about things like it is at least it's interesting. Like you do get people who come over and don't understand that you will have to take an umbrella, you might have to layer up, and you need a coat because people expect the weather to stay the same. Whereas in the UK, it can be rainy, it can be snowy, you can have sunshine, like throughout the whole day, and that makes it fun. So at least you're always on your toes.
Kind of sounds like Wisconsin. I mean, some days we have all 4 seasons in one day.
Exactly.
Like
Yeah, I like that.
I can't imagine living because I was in Europe, obviously, and it was just sunny all the time. Like, I was like, this is miserable. This is properly miserable. All of this, like, one climate, one, like, temperature heat. Like, you'd probably remember, was it 2 years ago, Robin, when it was really warm in the UK for an extended period of a week and a half, when everybody sort of died? I remember just sitting in the house going, it didn't matter, because AC isn't a thing in the UK at all. So if it gets warm, and by warm, 24, 25 degrees centigrade, you can work that out, Steve, it was, like, honestly unlivable.
swelter.
Yeah. I remember just sitting, everybody's just lying naked in the house going, this is dead. This is just not. This is the end.
I'm not sure everyone was naked, but yeah, it was.
They
it
were.
was pretty bad.
They were.
Oh, dear.
Well, a good climate. I think I did some business travel to Wisconsin. I went to, was it Menominee Falls? I don't know if you know where I think it's outside of...
That's where I work, actually.
Oh, really?
Menominee Falls. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
Yeah, was there quite a bit, for work stuff, so. Nice place, nice
Small
area, though.
world. Yeah.
Menominee Falls. Sounds like a Finding Nemo joke there with the Nemonini.
They told me to remember it it was spelled me no money. I think that's what the way that was. That was their like punchline was how to remember the name. But yeah, it was a nice place.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice, very nice.
It's like my wallet. Me no money.
All those books.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do know them. Okay, so for your books, have you ever thought about doing other, like, if you meet people in person, have you ever thought about doing other, what am I trying to say, merchandise related to your books? Is that something you would consider for in-person meetups, or are you just like, purely just books?
I do have an online store. I sell T-shirts, posters, mugs. I mean, you name it.
Yeah.
In fact,
I was looking at that.
the posters I have on the wall behind me, those are ordered off my website.
Yep.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's cool. Awesome. I know some people get old about it. I like book merchandise. That's really good.
And if you use the code Hellborn20, you get 20% off your first order. Like, how cool would it be? Like, I often think this. You know, you're walking down the street in like a Hellborn King t-shirt, and you just see the recognition in one person's eyes right across the street. Like that would be just the most incredible feeling.
Yeah, maybe it'll happen someday.
Maybe it'll happen someday.
Yeah, maybe someday. I did have somebody tell me in a DM that they were in a Barnes and Noble in Las Vegas and they saw one of my books on the shelf, and I'm like,
wow.
I'm like, how's this even possible? Because I only do the print on demand through them. So the only thing I can figure is maybe somebody out there ordered a copy, it arrived at the store, and they just never picked it up, and so they decided just to throw it out on the shelf. But yeah, so and then I've had other people send me pictures from like half price books and other like resellers or whatever where my books have popped up here and there. So that's super cool when that happens. Whenever somebody says, "Hey man, I saw your book in a bookstore," it's like, "What? Really?"
Nice.
So speaking of going off of Robin's question, I was browsing your site, and you have some Hellborn King music too.
Yes. So I had an actual Hollywood composer reach out to me, and he in exchange for signed copies of the books, he's creating original tracks for me, and the one that he's done is on my website now. He's going to make one inspired off of his reading of the Wrathbringer, and then one for Servitor of Sin, which is awesome.
That's amazing.
That's sweet.
Yeah, check it out. It's on my website. I put it up on YouTube as well. You just search Hellborn King. The name of the track is Northern Spirit. It pops up. Yep. It's 3 minutes long. It's like really tribally type. I don't know if anybody's familiar with bands like Heilung or Vordruna, sort of like Norse neofolk type of music. There's drums and some throat singing and stuff, and it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Never thought something like that would happen.
Yeah, kind of just reaching out to you
totally
randomly as well. That's epic.
That's super cool.
Very, very cool. I've learned a lot recently. I was talking to some people last night, and he was talking about how he ended up writing for a video game or something, and it ended up basically just being because he randomly contacted them and was like, "Do you need any whatever?" And they were like, "Absolutely, we'd love that." And then he ended up spiraling into more, and he ended up doing quite a few games with them and getting paid for it and stuff. And I was like, I felt it was really one of those things where actually, if you ever think, "Oh, I should just reach out," and you don't, you totally should, because so many things can come of it. I think it's awesome. Like some guy just being like, "I really loved making some music," and you were really pleased with it. It's just a really epic thing to do. I think.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So why not?
And when HBO do come calling to make the TV series, there's somebody already with a foot in the door.
Yeah. I mean, what really sold me on having this guy, working with this guy, is I went to his website, and he's done score for like the Game of Thrones DVDs. Wow. And I was like, whoa, that's really awesome. And he's done work for like American Horror Story and like some movies and stuff. And I was like, man, this guy's like the real deal. And it's just you never know what sort of connections you're going to make out there.
Speaking of music, I know you're a big music fan, but what are you listening to these days?
A little bit of everything. I listen to. I used to be a real big like death metal guy back in the day. Not so much anymore. I'll mainly just listen to it at the gym. But a lot of neo folk, a lot of post rock. You guys are just kind of looking at me like I'm speaking a different language right now. But
who are you? What did you do with Christopher?
Yeah, I do listen to a bit of black metal still, especially when I write certain characters like Lucetta. It's just the most dark, evil stuff I can find. But yeah,
such a good character. Honestly,
awesome.
When you read this book, and you think when you're reading Lucetta. Exactly what you've been doing.
I've dabbled in a little bit of Sleep Token lately. They're a band that's really blowing up, and that's a band that's totally outside my wheelhouse because like I got thrown for a total loop when I heard them, because they'll do like heavy metal, and then they'll do like hip hop, and then they'll do like funk or whatever, like all in the same song, and it's just like like who are these people, like, you know? So I don't know, it just kind of perusing and seeing what the YouTube algorithm throws my way, and you know, if it sounds good, I'll listen to it. My musical tastes have really expanded a lot, like especially over like the last 5-6 years. I used to be really closed-minded with music. It's like, if it ain't heavy, I ain't listening to it. But now it's like, you know, I'm open to pretty much anything now.
What about you, Jared? What are you listening to these days?
I listen to a lot of more the prog metal stuff, the Dream Theaters and the stuff like that. But I also like to venture into a little bit of jazz and even some occasional like Renaissance type music sometimes. So it's pretty wide variety of stuff. It's usually not popular stuff though on the radio. I don't really go for the radio stuff.
Yep.
Well, you, Robin, I'm guessing you're a black metal fan.
100%. No. I don't know. It's easier to say what I don't listen to than what I do, but I would say, my gradient in the middle is just ambient house music. Like Bonobo, people like that love Bonobo. But today I was listening to Jurassic 5 and then some country. So.
Jurassic 5 I haven't listened to in years.
Wow.
I know. I had a hankering for some reason, so that's what I was doing today.
What about you, Chris? What are you listening to these days?
I'm sort of a bit all over the place. I've been doing a lot of listening to a lot of Brazilian music recently for some reason. It's very summery. You see, I think that's very much it. The kind of Brazilian funk, 70s, 80s kind of thing is pretty great. And I sort of get steered down places that my kids are listening to as well, because they, like, especially the youngest one, is getting very into 60s, 70s, but also has discovered Slipknot, System of a Down, done all that kind of stuff, much to the horror of their mother, because it's like, what has happened, this beautiful child, you know? And I'm like, this is pretty cool, but they've also forced me back down into a big Beatles hole as well, so I've actually been doing a lot of Beatles the past week, actually, just popped up. But between that and Bowie and I don't know what else, a lot of jazz as well. I always listen to a lot of jazz is good for, especially when I'm reading. It's the one thing that I can kind of stick on the background, something with lyrics. But nobody might do it as well, like a bit of ambient house might do that as well, but a subtract or something, even be something like that would do.
It's great for reading. It really is great for reading. Just having it in the background, just something with a little bit of a beat that's not too.
And I have a good friend that does a weekly music battle. So he puts up on Twitter and he says, "Right, go ahead." So sometimes they're impossible. So one was Massive Attack Mezzanine versus Moon Safari, which I just found completely impossible. But this week's is AC/DC, Back to Black, and Number of the Beast by Iron Maiden. So I'm sort of listening to those as well as a kind of, I'll give them a bit of feedback on that. So. Pick your
Which were you leaning on that
What about
one?
you, Steve?
I was gonna say, what about you, Steve?
I made the mistake of getting on Bandcamp, and it's been bad for my wallet. But lately, I've been listening to some Rollo Tomasi. Is what I've been listening to.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
I did see as well, you were talking about internet radio stations. I saw that post.
Yes, I didn't know that was a thing until YouTube recommended this video to me about it, having your own internet radio station. I didn't know that was a thing, and apparently it is. But you can jump on and create your own station and play whatever you want. It's kind of
And
neat.
that presumably people listen, because I remember.
Hopefully,
I'm sure that's been around for ages, because I'm sure I remember like finding random radio stations ages and ages ago. I just haven't done it recently, but yeah.
There used to be in iTunes when it first launched. There used to be like an internet radio section that used to collate all the streams, and you used to just go down and just click. There was just like a massive list of them you used to get in old versions of iTunes. Remember?
I used to this is like 2000. I don't know, a long time ago. I used to listen to radio stations on Winamp. I don't know if those of you out there remember Winamp. And there was like a internet radio station thing, and you can pick different stations, and Yeah, that was. I always had that running in the background, but yeah, I thought they went away, but apparently they didn't. But it sounds like a lot of work because you have to promote it and you have to like get it out there, and if nobody listens to it and you're paying for it. It's kind of like, what's the point?
It's just what you need, though, Steve. As
Yeah.
another hobby, another thing to put your time and energy into.
I know. I'm like, I don't need anything else. It's tempting, but we'll see. I don't know.
Still think you should put up some more playlists on the forum though, for sure, Steve. Because I like you listen to like a range of music, and a lot of things you bring up, I'm like, oh my god, I haven't listened to that in an age. So recommend that you put more of those up.
Okay, yeah, I'll do that. Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, I'll do that up. Yeah. But I know time gets away from us all the time. It starts to just before you notice an hour and a half in, but I know it's getting late for Robin on the other side of the pond, and Chris is getting late for you too. But Christopher, I want to thank you for coming by. I really appreciate it. I mean, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Really appreciate your support and friendship, and it means a lot. So thank you for being a friend and being an awesome author. So I don't know how you do it, but you do it.
Yeah.
And thank you, man. Thanks for everything, and thanks for having me back. It's always great talking to you and Chris, and it's nice meeting you, Jared and Robin. This has been a lot of fun.
Yes. So before we go, where can people find you if they want to buy your books or buy your merch or listen to the music that you've made for the books or all these other things you have going on? Where can people find more information, and where can people sign up for your mailing list?
ChristopherGBrenning.com. If you sign up for my mailing list, you get a link to a free ebook download for the new novella, Servitor of Sin. It's got all my links on there. I'm the most active on Twitter, aka X now. I really hate that he changed it to that, but that's where you can find me. Is on Twitter.
Nice. And Jared, where can people find you?
I have my YouTube channel, The Fantasy Thinker, and I am also doing a blog on pagechewing.com.
Yes.
It's called Creative Crossroads, so you can check that out. I try to do it weekly. We'll see if I can keep that up.
Very good stuff. Yeah, very good stuff. And Jared, you do some awesome videos too, so everyone should go check them out. Definitely. Yes.
Thank you.
Very good stuff. And Robin, where can people find you?
Sorry, I was trying to find Christopher. On Twitter. Yeah, you can find me on X under Bookends and Biscuits, and on my YouTube channel of Bookends and Biscuits. So yeah, thanks for having me. It's been really good fun.
And of course, Chris, where can people find you?
X sounds really dweeby, doesn't it? That's really what it is. It
does.
sounds like something I would have called it in the 90s or something. I don't know. You can find me on YouTube at my name, Chris Mohan, or you can find me in the Patreon forums, or hopefully on a Friday conversation or something in the near future.
Yes, always open anytime. Any of you are welcome anytime. Just let me know. When, and we'll figure it out. But thanks to everyone for listening. Really appreciate everyone's time, and we will talk to everyone very soon.